Welcome back. Joining us in the studio is Richard Conti, and the event that we are going to be talking about is the Antiques Discovery and Appraisal Show. It's happening on Saturday, February 18th. The tickets must be purchased in advance. So as you're listening, if this is something that you are interested in, you want to follow up and get those tickets because you cannot buy them the day of the event. And we'll talk about how people can get those tickets. But Richard, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ann Marie. It's a pleasure to be here.
This is a very exciting opportunity for folks to kind of find out what their valuables are really worth. And we were talking a little bit about that before we went on. Now, you have accredited and professional appraisers who will be at this event, which is happening at the Crown Plaza.
Yes, this is a rather remarkable event that's coming up. It's the first in the nation. No one's ever tried to do what we're going to do February 18th in Warwick. As president of the Boston chapter of the American Society of Appraisers, I've assembled my peers to come and help me raise this event into a new standard. So what we're doing is we're coming down to Warwick with 7 accredited appraisers, and I'll go into that later, who are going to appraise anything that anyone brings into the room, which is an enormous challenge because in Rhode Island we have a very broad range of important and not so important things, and the diversity is just absolutely stunning. So that's why we have to get so many people together.
And that's what one of the questions that I wanted to ask you. What are some of the things that you are expecting to see at this event?
I'm personally expecting to see some early New England furniture. I'm expecting to see some Rhode Island Watercolor Society artists. I'm expecting to see a lot of things that probably aren't worth anything, and I'm expecting to find something that's worth a tremendous amount of money. That's always happens in these events.
All of those are really wonderful. There are, though, a few things that you do not want to see at this event.
Yeah, we can't handle any firearms because it's a public event, and we can't handle hazardous materials because we're going to have 1,000 people gathered together, so in an enclosed space. So, but we will handle, silver, ceramics, jewelry, art, furniture, ephemera, rugs, clocks, books, papers, letters, whatever you've got that you don't know what it is, you want to bring it in, because I have 3 rules, Ann Marie.
Okay.
The best advice I've ever given anybody is listen to Rick Conti tell you what the 3 rules of personal property are. Rule number 1 is don't do anything with something until you know what it is. You've got something just because it was old Aunt Tilly's and it's been hanging around in the family for the last 400 years. You think it's a piece of junk, but it might not be. So the first rule of Rick Conti's rule is don't do something with anything until you know what it is. Rule number 2 is don't sell it to the person who tells you how much it's worth.
So always get a second opinion?
No. If you only get one opinion, you shouldn't sell it to the one person who tells you how much it's worth. If you get 2 opinions, you still might not know how much it's worth.
So who should you sell it to?
Well, you need as much information as possible of similar things that sold in the past in order to come to a conclusion of what you think yours is worth. Because rule number 3 is it's only worth what someone's willing to pay. So if you follow Rick Conti's 3 rules, learn what it is before you go sell it. Don't sell it to the person who tells you how much it's worth, and do your own research and figure out what it is and what it's worth, and I'll tell you where to go to find that out. Then you're likely to sell something for as much money as you possibly can get for it. And I might add that this is the worst market I've seen in 30 years.
Really?
Yes, it's horrible out there.
Speaking of finding out how much something is actually worth, we've all seen the antiques programs on television.
There's a lot of them.
The roadshow and programs like that, and they're lots of fun to watch. And I was always under the false assumption that you all were walking encyclopedias, which you probably are that also. However, I recently saw a video clip of you, and you had this tremendous toolkit of appraisal tools, and which I was surprised by because that was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. So I'm wondering, can you tell us what do you have in that kit?
There's a lot of myths in the trade, Ann Marie. Myth number 1 is that appraisers are walking encyclopedias. The reality is we are endless sources of useless information. We do know a lot about everything. However, we focus on value characteristics, and And the value characteristics of something are, the size, the utility, the provenance, the condition, the scale, and the style. The size and style are probably the two largest criteria. In the appraisal kit, I have many types of magnifying glasses. I have many types of measuring devices. I have items specialized for specific things. I have a black light to look at art and ceramics. I have a very expensive electronic device that can detect real diamonds from moissanite diamonds or synthetic diamonds, or real emeralds from synthetic emeralds, or real sapphire from glass, which looks identical. I also have specialized equipment for jewelry, specialized equipment for furniture, specialized equipment for paper. Rugs are particularly difficult. They require their own little special bunch of tools. Here's the thing, is that there's no one person who possibly could know everything in the history of civilization, of everything made by man, and be able to tell instantly what it is. That doesn't happen.
Sure.
It takes many minds and takes a lot of research, and thank heavens for the internet. But I have 3,000 books in my office.
Wow. But now, your 3,000 books are not going to be at this event.
No.
Will each of the appraisers that will be there, do they all have kits like the one that you're talking about now?
Yes, we all have kits, and we're all bringing hand trucks full of books, because you
Really?
can find things in books you cannot find on the internet. I just bought a book on Connecticut River Valley furniture, $385. I bought the Currier and Ives used book, 2-volume catalog raisonné of all the works made by Currier and Ives, $280 for the books. These books are very expensive. I have the catalog of all sandwich glass sitting in it's encyclopedia for sandwich glass. It's in 6 volumes. $1,500 I paid for those books. The books are very expensive.
Some of these books may be worth more than the items that are being
They're
brought
worth more
in.
than me. They're very expensive books. But you can find things in there that you cannot find anywhere else. And that's when I go on vacation, I take 6 books with me, and I'm lost in them. I mean, it's you read things. I've got little Post-it notes in all my books everywhere about important things I found that are key to specific types of analysis. And it's never ending, Emery. That's why I'm an appraiser. You never stop learning, and it's never boring, and you always come across something totally different that you've never seen before. And in this profession, you get to touch things and see things and hold them in your own hands, things that you would never be able to touch in ordinary life.
So the books are really useful in identifying what these items are and how valuable they are. I'm assuming then you will also have internet access, because I think what you said, part of the process that you do when you do this written evaluation is not only identifying what these items are, but what have they sold for recently, so you can determine what a reasonable value is.
Yes, Ann Marie, if your listeners are driving their car, they need to pull over and pull out a piece of paper and pencil, because I'm going to give you 2 websites that are really, really important. Every appraiser in America uses 2 primary internet locations for research. One is www.artfact.com, ARTFACT, and it has 1 million records from auctions in America of things that sold online, available through a searchable database. The other one from France is artnet.com. And ArtNet has a fine art database and a decorative arts database. They're both enormous and invaluable, and they cost money to subscribe to. But ArtNet is just as phenomenal as ArtFact. It's enormous. But the problem that the listener is going to have is, what do I have? Mm-hmm. They're gonna say, well, I'm gonna go poke around and figure out, is this a desk, or is this a secretary? I don't know. Mm-hmm. And that's what you learn with years and years and years of experience as an appraiser.
If you missed those websites, if you weren't able to pull over and write them down, you can go to the Ann Spath Productions Facebook page, and we will have this conversation, and all of our conversations are posted there, just so people know that. Now, something very special about this event is that it will be televised. It is to raise money for Rhode Island PBS, I believe, programming, or just in general, it's a fundraiser for Rhode Island PBS, and it will be a program is going to be made of the event. So the host of the program, I believe, is Brian Scott Smith, who helped with the pledge drive. So he will be there. A video crew from Rhode Island PBS will be there. What can you tell us about how this program is what's going to look like? And
what's different about this program than all other programs that have ever happened in the United States is that the 6 appraisers that are going to be there, backed up with 30 researchers. So there's going to be 30 people on laptops connected to the internet, going on ArtFact and ArtNet, with all the books that the appraisers brought in, taking direction from the 6 appraisers on how to find out the value of the specific thing that the person brought in, so that in the end we can give them a written appraisal in conformance with a national standard that's called the Uniform Standard of Professional Appraisal Practice. This document is a lot of people want to call it a certified appraisal, but certified implies license. There's no licensing in personal property appraisals. So what this is a document that so that if you have a vase in your house, for example, and you don't know what it is, you bring it to the Antiques Discovery and Appraisal Show. You give it to the appraiser. The appraiser talks to the researcher. They do the research. Maybe Brian Scott Smith will be filming it if it's an important vase or it's a unique vase or it's a vase made in Rhode Island. There's some really unique vases out there. In the end, you're going to get a written appraisal that you can roll up and tuck into the vase and put it back on the shelf, so that if something happens to you or the family and someone comes in to clean the place out, there's the vase with the piece of paper in it that says, this is what it is, this is how much it's worth,
so it doesn't
on this day when we
end
looked
up
at
over at Goodwill or whatever.
Correct.
And you answered my question. I was wondering, what is the value of having that written appraisal? And also, I have heard several times in conversation about this event that this is a really good deal, and I think the tickets are about $65 each. So
It is a great deal.
What does one of these written appraisals normally go for? Why is it a good
expensive.
deal? Okay, are they? Okay.
$65 to have an item appraised is very much worth it. Number one, Rhode Island PBS is phenomenal. We need Rhode Island PBS. We're in difficult economic times. The station is doing this. So the proceeds of this event are going to buy programming. Very important. The quality program from Rhode Island PBS is something we've all learned to depend on, and if we don't pay attention to it, we don't want it to go away. So that's why all of these appraisals are coming down to Rhode Island at my request to raise money for programming for Rhode Island PBS. Okay, fine. These appraisals that are coming down charge anywhere from $125 an hour to $375 an hour. These are the top talent in New England. And an appraisal written by them, even on a single item, can easily cost a couple $1,000. Because if you've got a work of art, let's say, and you know it was important, it's a Rhode Island artist, and you know you've heard the name, and you've maybe done some research, and you know that he was a member of the Rhode Island Watercolor Society or Providence Artist Group or graduate of RISD or whatever, but you don't know specifically, number one, how much it's worth, and number two, where to sell it if you want to sell it. By hiring an accredited appraiser and going out and getting an accredited appraisal, you get a written appraisal report, you get an opinion of value, an independent professional opinion of value that's researched, and the value is based on the marketplace. In the appraisal report, you will also have where those values came from, which is where you need to take that work of art to sell. So that if all the comps are at Christie's in New York City at the auction house, that's where the work needs to go. And I've had cases in Rhode Island where that's exactly happened.
So at the risk of, I was told that we are not to sound like an infomercial, but it sounds like you are as passionate about Rhode Island PBS as I am.
I am.
And so, not only, as you had mentioned, Richard, is this supporting great programming and a great station, but there is a real dollar value to getting this written appraisal. So when you go and buy that ticket online for this event, it gives you entrance for yourself and a guest, and one written appraisal for an item. You can get up to 3 tickets, which means 3 separate items for $65 each. So you could possibly be saving hundreds or thousands of dollars, because whatever item, say I bring in that rug or that vase, and you give me that written appraisal, no matter what it is that I bring in, you are going to give me a written appraisal for it.
Ann Marie, this is all that I do for a living. I'm a full-time professional personal property appraiser, accredited by the National Auctioneers Association as a graduate personal property appraiser, accredited by the National Association of Professional Appraisers as a senior professional appraiser, and accredited by the American Society of Appraisers as an accredited senior appraiser. All I do all day long, every day, is either go into houses and look at things or go into businesses and look at things to determine what the value is for one reason or another. And in every case, almost every case, 99.9% of the cases, you're looking at a very broad spectrum of things. You're looking at furniture, you're looking at art, you're looking at jewelry, you're looking at ceramics, you're looking at books and silver, and you're looking at firearms, and you're looking at vehicles, and you're looking at who knows what. When you walk into a house, you don't know what you see. And there's always, Ann Marie, every time, there's something there that somebody did not know what it was or what it was worth, and it's a surprise.
That must
every
be
time.
a fun part of your job.
No, it's the stressful part from the job because they're relying on me to come up with what is it and what's it worth. And it's a very stressful because you've got a situation. You're there for a reason. Someone either died,
Yeah.
or someone's getting divorced,
Yeah.
or someone's being sued, or someone wants to insure it, or there's another problem. And they're going to make a very important family decision on what you tell them. There's a lot of stress involved. You've got to be right.
Okay, so I stand corrected. It's stressful for you, but it must be very exciting for the people that you go to see when they find out that something that they didn't know had value actually does have real value.
My clients are always happy, and that's true of every good businessman. I think you work hard to give them what they need, but you're right. The things that you discover, I mean, I remember going in Cranston several years ago with a man in his middle age, and his aunt had passed away, and he remembers going into the house when he was just a little Todd. And I walked into the front door of the house, and the living room was on the right-hand side. Walked into the living room, and there were two works of art hanging on the wall, painted by Guy Wiggins, and they both were worth between $40,000 and $45,000 a piece.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you, I'm very sad to see the
Oh,
clock
look at
ticking
that.
away, and we're
Oh,
almost at
isn't
the
that
top of the
amazing?
hour, which makes me very sad, but not surprised. What is the most extraordinary item you've come across so far in your work?
The most extraordinary, I had to do a job for the United States Customs Department up in Boston, Massachusetts, of an Amadeo Modigliani painting, and a couple of works done by Edgar Degas. And the Amadeo Modigliani was a fake. And even as a fake, it went down to New York City and sold at Christie's for $600,000.
Even knowing that it was a fake.
Correct.
That is extraordinary.
That's extraordinary.
Richard, thank you so much for joining us today. Richard Conti is the senior appraiser from Conti Appraisal Services in Attleboro. The event is the Antiques Discovery and Appraisal Show happening on Saturday, February 18th. The times do vary depending on when you get your tickets, and they must be purchased in advance. And you can do that by going to the ripbs.org website. Thanks also to Kathleen Von Rhine, the Susan G. Komen, Team Lionheart. The Dance Breast Cancer Out of Town event is happening at the Holiday Inn South County on Saturday, February 11th from 7 until 11 p.m. So 2 great Saturday events happening in February. You can dance Breast Cancer Out of Town on February 11th and then go see how much your articles of value are really worth on Saturday, February 18th at the Crowne Plaza. If you would like to hear these conversations again, they will be posted on the Ann Spath Productions Facebook page where you can listen and share with others. I'd like to thank our board operator, Lauren Kleinkoff, for whom this show is always an adventure that he faces fearlessly. Thank you so much, Lauren. Chris DiPaolo and Steve Conti, thank you, and everyone at WBLQ. Lucky for us, streaming worldwide at WBLQ.net. I'm Ann Marie Spatharakis. Thank you for joining us today in the studio.
is News from 1230 WBLQ Westerly Stonington.
This is Chris DePaula reporting from the WBL.